people don't believe Africa, that people don't
Yes, I would.
believe
I
Africa.
would certainly want to comment on what Bill said. Certainly, it's a possibility because our education system is liberalized. You have literary schools everywhere. In addition, the government has this universal primary education, universal secondary education, where they have made it free. The only problem is that they have not made it really compulsory for parents to push their children, the boys and the girls, to school. But it's by and large free. However, the quality of teaching and learning is still wanting because there is hardly any monitoring from the local government authorities as well as the central government. They assume because the students are in classes, they are teaching basically. So, but if they improved the quality of learning and teaching, and then they improved a bit of infrastructure because you find a small classroom accommodating like 200 children, no learning at all. Because if there are these small children, they are struggling for chairs, they are screaming, they are doing what? So uh, there would be really that shift is highly possible. It's a question of like restructuring a little bit, making sure that the teachers are like retrained on the job, to be a bit much more friendly to the children, and also new methodologies of training. I mean, of teaching children, like in smaller groups, where you have like a teaching corner, and then the other children are assigned some work with the classes of in large numbers, and then they catch up. They meet in one session to
Mhm.
share what they have learned, basically.
Yeah.
So I think that
Could I
reality is
ask
a
you,
possibility.
Edward, what country you're in?
Uganda.
Uganda
Uganda. Okay.
in
Yeah.
East Africa,
Mhm.
yes.
Yeah, I know where it is.
Yeah.
It's
There's
Yeah.
Yes, I was thinking there is a system called the Montessori system,
yeah.
and one thing they do is they take the students, the older students, they guide the younger. So they, in the groups that you were talking about, it would be an older student that would actually be there and help the younger ones to learn the things that they'd learned,
Yeah.
which means
Hmm.
that they would be learning, both of them would be learning, and that sort of helps to spread the
Yeah.
burden, but it also teaches in a different way.
Yeah.
Well,
But
it's
I
like the
think here
idea of the
though,
mentor coaches that you
yeah,
talked
but
about before,
yeah,
Bill.
Montessori and the Waldorf schools
Yes.
that works for a certain number, but that's not where the future's going very quickly. There's a school in Austin, Texas. It started there, the Alpha School, that uses AI to help teach, and you can tremendously reduce the cost. And then you just need to have your teachers, they become mentor coaches. There's a famous Indian professor who was teaching in England. He won I think it's YouTube. No, not YouTube. TED Talks. TED Talks gave out that big prize, $500,000 or whatnot, for the best social presentation. And this Indian professor, he's the one that's famous for the putting the computers in the holes in the wall in the impoverished communities. And what he found is by going and getting the students to take charge and giving them just some little tools, and he could take young women that had zero academic knowledge, no academic knowledge, and he put them in charge. And these young women said, "But we don't know anything about the subject." And he said, "You don't need to. You use the grandmother method. You just say, you can do, oh, that's so fantastic what you're doing." And you just keep motivating and encouraging the young students. And he was able to take a public school, a government school in India that was very, very poor, very, very poor results. And he did that. He put a couple of computers in there. He didn't tell the kids how to use them or anything. He just put those in there, and he said, "Go learn something." And he put this young woman here that didn't know anything about it in charge. And after 1 year, they came back. That school beat almost all the expensive private schools in the region there, academically, those kids had taught themselves a tremendous. They learned about DNA and genetics and biology and so many things. You'd never believe what these kids were able to learn. So what we're looking at here is the cost. There was a thing called the oh, I forget the prize, the Peter Diamante's the X Prize, where they offered, I think, $15 million in an experiment in Africa to whoever could come up with a tool that would run on any smartphone, Android smartphone, that would enable a totally illiterate child to become literate in 18 months on their own. $15 million, whoever can come up with the best solution to do that. And it was tested then in a year in Tanzania. So we see we can do these things. We just have to believe we can do them at scale. And that's what we're trying to do here. If we can go and get these young people across Africa to say, we will show you.
Yeah,
We
exactly.
take
So
a
I'm
big
just looking at the time now. It's
yeah, I was just
7:30,
hoping Joan
and,
would come in
and
because
some of us have been here
yeah,
for half an
yeah.
hour.
Okay.
And I think, would it be an idea to start the meetings on time, regardless of who's there? That
Well,
we really
it
start on time,
normally
and then people will come.
yeah,
Because if I know that you're not starting till 7:30, I
yeah.
would not have got up at 6:30
The
to.
only reason was Joan was going to be the driver here, and so that's the
And
reason.
Joan is always on time.
Yeah.
She's usually
Well,
the
so she's
so
the last couple of times she's got another meeting that normally is finished in time for our meeting, but I know last time it ran over as well. So that's part of the reason why I was waiting there. Anyway,
but
let's go then and switch gears. We posted, I put up there the presentation. The last time we met, Joan presented PowerPoint presentation, and we posted that up there. And I sent out an interim uh, notice to everybody about a week and a half ago or so. And I sent that, I repeated it here. But I know Joan because I gave her edit rights to it because the idea was people could put their comments, make comments here through the WhatsApp group or whatever, and then Joan would incorporate that into the document. But she created a new document here the other day. We saw it on Saturday, but unfortunately, she didn't send it to me, so I couldn't upload that one. So as soon as I get that, I'll upload it. I think here a big part we can use this time, Lisinka, to talk about something you brought up the other day with me. Because the last time we talked about, okay, we need it to be needs based. We don't need to go and build something that's going to cause a lot of people to be manufacturing things on spec.
just a minute. If we just go back to the original plan, that makes it so much easier.
Yeah.
And the original plan is that people would make lists of the things that are needed.
Right.
And the people themselves would discuss whether they're sustainable or not. So people would have self-education so that right in the beginning in the world, everyone would be self-educating on sustainability.
Yeah, that's
And
what we
that's
wanted
very
that's what we want to discuss today, Lisinka, because the last two meetings that we had, we had said we would put the idea of the sociocratic decision making and the involvement of the people on the back burner and focus the pilot on the marketplace. And then the discussion 3 meetings ago was moving towards the idea of just like an Amazon type. Everybody puts in what they have to offer on goods and services. And then 2 meetings ago, we said, no, wait a minute. The key idea was here to be needs based or demands based.
Yeah, Bill, let's go back to what the pilot project is going to be. What I see as a pilot project is there's going to be a group in Uganda. There'll be a group with Joan and Lloyd in Canada. We might have one in Spain. I don't know, whatever. And there's going to be these little groups, as you mentioned before when you were talking to Edward, and these groups are probably going to be led by an Edward and a Lloyd and a George and Augustine. The people that are here will be initiators of these groups, and they will probably not be that big. Let's say they
That's the people I've been talking about have been going in a different direction. What they've been
And
looking
so
at,
then we would have in these little groups,
yeah,
we would agree that we would have sociocratic decision making, and the people who are in charge of that would be educated in what that is.
yeah, that's a
And
very
they
different
can bring it.
direction. That's a very different direction, though, than what the last two meetings, because many of the people were talking about the remote areas, they don't have connectivity or whatever, and the discussion was to be able to that you might have somebody on a motorbike or a bicycle that might come out once a week or whatnot, and people would be able to enter in their needs into a system. There would not necessarily be that grouping of people that you were talking about, Lasinka. That's something that you raised with me yesterday, and so I put it on the agenda for today. But the last two meetings, we were talking about a system that did not include the sociocratic decision making or even the
Then you're
grouping of
taking a
people.
whole huge part out of it,
Yes,
because
yes,
the
definitely.
idea is
But
that
that's
people will become savvy about sustainability,
right,
so that right from the grassroots, whatever the UN has put up here about sustainability, the grassroots would be the ones that would become
right.
proactive.
But I think here a
And the
lot of the
people that are
discussion,
become sustainable in the
yeah.
small groups,
Oh,
they're going to bring that to their families, and the families are going to
yeah,
be coming, sort of making impact on the shops. So
yeah.
this is very, very important
Right. But
part.
the thing about it is, for the last couple of meetings, we talked about the Maslow hierarchy that we need to satisfy those bottom levels of
Still, we need to start
survival.
the reason why Africa is so poor is because we have people in the north who are spiritually impoverished and who see their happiness in having more, and not really being deeply inwardly satisfied and going along and becoming wiser people. Where the people in the north were greedy and trying to find their happiness in more money and more diamonds and more gold, that is where we got the spiritual impoverishment. And so you got the spiritual impoverishment of the people who have the weapons and the things, and the material impoverishment of the people who have the wealth.
But
And
we,
so
we
we,
have we
those
have a
two things
material
are
we have a material
two sides
impoverishment of
of
people that don't have food and shoes and
they are
school.
two sides of the same coin. So both these things have to be taken care of.
Right. But I think
We
the question was of the urgency right now of
urgency is that there'll be people from the north like you and me who have to be educated, and there are people on the south that need material goods and
yeah,
services,
yeah.
and they cannot be disregarded. But at the same time, there has to be this understanding that the people who have the money are not the enlightened ones, that they have to go through their own development to become more enlightened human beings.
I think the question that comes to us at this point, though, is how do we do that practically in both situations?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's what we need to deal with, Lloyd.
But that was the question of the pilot. The whole idea of the pilot was we can't do everything from day
We
one.
have to do, we can. We can. There's no problem with doing everything. There's no problem. We just have to take that into account. There are people like you, me, who come from very wealthy countries. And then there are people like Edward, who comes from Uganda, which is a very rich country, but it's impoverished in terms of infrastructure and stuff. So, we have all these different levels.
We just got finished, the Rotary Club I just belonged to not too long ago. We just got finished building an $800,000 school in Uganda. And one of the things that we look at here, if we take a look at what percentage of children are out of school across Africa, if we look here at the number of displaced people right now in Africa, if we take a look here at the amount of hunger taking place there, these are when we talk here, when I talk to people, they say, oh, all your highfalutin with your head up here, and you want all these fancy things. Guess what? When we can live for another month, there was a professor from somewheres at
All
the
right, Bill,
COP.
just let's get down to it.
Yeah,
Let's get down to it. Okay.
yeah.
Don't let just let's get down to dealing with the material poverty, and at the same time bear in mind that we're also dealing with the
Yeah,
spirit.
definitely. It doesn't take away. It doesn't take away from the
Let's get
idea.
down to the project. Let's
Yeah.
go down to the
So,
project
so
now and
the in the project here, what we had discussed last time, and unfortunately, as I say, Joan's not here because I would have expected her to lead this part. But what we said was that we would have a system that would enable people to document their needs with or without assistance of others. Because if you can't read, let's say, and you're in a small village, somebody might be able to come and explain to you what this system is about and help you get your needs documented and your wants documented. But the bottom line is we end up putting into this system as many needs as we can. And then there would be a review process here, which in the beginning might be done using artificial intelligence or what have you, that would determine is this thing here something that's bad for the world? Are you saying here I
Bill,
want?
again, Bill, we're going down top down. The idea of the sustainability is when the people at the grassroots put their needs in, they start to think, are these sustainable? And that's where the thinking starts at the
But
grassroots.
that's the
And then
piece that
that
we
comes,
dropped out in the last two meetings. We said we have to postpone that aspect of all the
you
thinking and whatnot
can't,
and give people
not
food
at
in their mouth.
all. Not at all. People need the food, of course. And then, they can see whether it's sustainable. Are they killing off all the elephants, or are they, whatever. So we can't, there's going to be leaders at every level, right? Because otherwise they wouldn't be participating. And so this needs to be included. The discussion needs to be included right from the beginning,
I
because that is
yeah.
an essential part of the whole project.
I think what you're going to see is you're going to see in and very well could be that the system, if you're in a city, if you're in a city
Wait a minute,
somewhere.
Bill, can we get the others to comment? Because
Okay.
you and I are having a private
Well, I
conversation.
just want to go and clarify for the others here the what we were looking at, what we were talking about these last couple of weeks was the idea that you might go in and the system might say, okay, be sure what you're selecting is sustainable. You have to put it in, and maybe you have to put in a little blurb about why it's sustainable. For those people who are able to interact, they have access to the system, and they are able to read and write, and the language that they read and write is supported by the system. But the bottom line is that we would capture these needs, and then somehow there would be a decision made. But we're not we said we were postponing the idea of creating these local councils, and that is, there is not a mutual dependency. We can educate people on sustainability. We can go and do every single thing about it without encouraging community councils, because I just did a study over the last 2 weeks that community is dying around the whole world. And if we are the people that are trying to keep a dead system alive of community and interacting among humans, then we're going to be like Rotary. We're going to be losing. It's good for us to do that, but not make it a prerequisite of being able to help people be able to survive and grow with maybe some means that is not 100% based on the community sitting together and making joint decisions.
Well, I'd like to put this to our
Yeah,
friends.
no,
You and
agree.
I, two white people from the north who have come from a very rich country, and we're talking about I'm so sorry, Edward and Calabazi. Or do you call yourself George or Calabazi? George?
It's Katabazi,
Catabazi. I see. Okay.
George.
All right. I'd like to hear from others because Edward, what are your thoughts?
I think Edward's frozen.
Yeah.
Augustine also, please um, join in.
Yeah, thank you very much, Bill. Thank you very much. I think all these uh,
You're
can is anybody
you're breaking up,
hearing me?
Edward. We can't understand you. I don't know if you're moving
Am
around.
I audible enough?
Yeah, try now.
Can
No, okay.
No, we lost him entirely.
Yeah. Katabazi is do you go by Katabazi or by George?
Well, both are my names. And, first and foremost, I would like to thank you, Bill, and Lloyd, for the great work you are really doing.
Yeah.
It's so amazing.
If you turn off your camera, I think you'll get better connectivity. Just turn off your camera and keep your microphone going. Yes, try
Can you
now.
hear me now?
Oh, better, better.
I'll say, yeah. I was saying
yes,
I'm really
can you hear me now?
Yes, yes, Edward, but if you could wait just a second. Okay, go ahead. Katabasi.
so thank you once again very much for the work you are really doing. Bill, Sinkared, it is really amazing work, and I am in the support of the Sinka for what you are putting across. It is really showing that it is going to elevate people from poverty once this project, this pilot study is put into place. That's what I can say for now. But I can see the future would be bright once everything is put into progress and start. Thank you very much.
Katabazi, where you are, do you have a group of people who might like to form a part of this project?
Yeah, I've been sharing with a number of groups. They are really willing to be part of this project, and given the chance, we shall have as many groups as possible across Western Uganda, where I hail from. Once again, I must say I'm the leader of Western Uganda Film Producers Association, and I'm the leader of different initiatives, especially the agriculture part of it. So I've been sharing some of these ideas, and they are really saying we are ready to embrace whatever is coming, and just tell us when the right time comes. So I'm ready to work with you and have more group join the project. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Katabazi, I'm just wondering, and Edward, I don't know, you two are in different parts of Uganda because I think Uganda is quite large. But Katabazi, when you think of the people that you would be working with, do you see them coming up with any needs that they think, well, I would like this or I would like that? do you feel that they would be expressing their needs? Would it be easy to gather the needs together? What sort of needs do you feel might be expressed in the people that you would have around you?
Thank you very much. For example, in a good circle where I am, the creative part of it, they will have to really like to have the the modernized quality of film production equipment as a basic need for them. And for the agriculture part of it, where I come from, they have many products uh, which lack a value addition, especially like people who produce honey, people who produce matoke. This is banana. People who produce uh, rosemary, people who produce gonja, I don't know, it's roasted bananas. They would want to add value on the products they have, but because they lack proper equipment to add value on it, that's a basic they would wish to have, especially to add value on the products they are producing. Yeah, that's what I can say
That's
about
wonderful.
the basic
This is
needs.
very enlightening because you would work as a community, and the community would say, we need these implements to be able to farm our products better, and we would like to sell our products as part of the project. Did I understand that correctly?
Yes. So they
Well,
have products they are producing as of now, but because they are not in a good proper to be exported because there is no much value added on it. For example, when I say people have raw honey, and this raw honey needs to have proper packaging equipment, proper machinery to pack it for a better standards to be accepted on the world market, on the global market. So they lack some proper machinery so that their raw products can have value, which is for better human consumption, especially on the sustainable market.
wonderful, wonderful. This really this gives light to the project. It suddenly becomes concrete. I'm looking at Augustine and Edward. Edward, I know you were just mentioning you're a civil servant working for the United Nations. Um, do you have a community where you are which would be participating in the project, like Katabazi was saying?
Yes, thank you very much. I hope everybody is listening to me now. Is that correct?
Yes.
Perfect, perfect.
Yes, I am also really, when I retired, I took farming and we have like a group of 30 people. We have a cooperative society. We call ourselves rosemary farmers. We are trying to add value, even make some kind of medicine out of it, mixing it with other herbs, for example. Such a group would be willing really to, like, for example, instantly to come up and support and join the program once it started. Of course, in addition, we have other groups who do like cultural heritage, for example, where they are trying to revive the tradition, the African traditional and traditions and the culture. Again, once you ask what would be your need, then they would say we need a trainer to identify those other, to do a bit of more research. We need like costumes. So the needs would be enormous. It would be a question of like prioritizing them, ranking them, and really agreeing on what would serve like some of those existing groups. And then, like in most parts of the country, every village has like they belongs to a certain group that supports one another in times of crisis. For example, once a person loses a member of family, you find about families, about 30 families, they are already together every month. They meet and contribute some money about $1.50 and equivalent in Uganda shillings. And then once a person dies, for example, then they come to support to to prepare and support the funeral arrangements. So those groups exist literally almost in the central and western Uganda. So they are already there. It's a question of like working with their leaders to see what else they can do instead of like focusing on a person who has died, for example. Then we would say, let's look at what you can do to empower yourself economically, for example, and then to increase your ability even to pay your fees for children, your grandchildren, and so on. So in terms of the human grouping and that social infrastructure, the social capital is readily available, and it's a question of without raising false expectations. It's a question of working with them and helping them really to identify what else they could do in addition to what they are already doing and working on. Thanks. Over to Lysink and Bill.
What is incredibly enlightening to me is that we have been, what I realized both from you, Edward, and Katabazi, and Augustine, we need to get to you too, is that you talk mainly about communities. And you do also talk about personal fees, etc., but you're working as a community that has an industry that needs to be empowered. It's not that you are saying, gimme, gimme, gimme. You're saying, we want empowerment for our local industry, and we work communally. And in that communal working, we also have children that need fees for school. And even where schools are free, I remember when I was in Gambia and Sierra Leone, it was incredibly important that they have something to write with, a pencil, and shoes to be able to walk to school, and those types of things. So this gives our project a completely different face from what we see when we just theoretically come from what has been talked about in northern countries, and the whole sense of community and community building, and that the needs are the community needs. Those are the ones you mentioned first. So this is really important, and that means that that community working is something that you are already doing. You don't talk about individual needs, you talk about community needs. This is really important for us to know. Augustine, we haven't heard from you at all yet. Would you like to comment on how you see the plan working for you?
Yeah, can you hear me, please?
Very clearly.
Hello?
Yes,
Okay, thank
very
you.
good, very
All
good.
good.
Yes, thank you so much. As for me, how I can see this plan itself is very good. It's a nice plan, but here in Tanzania, for example, Tanzania, we have a huge country. We have a huge country with the so huge population. We have youth population. We have other people with different needs, but all those people can work and they can be involved in the different projects in this country. Myself, I am reading different groups. For example, I'm a leader of the organization called Peace and Hope for Youth Development. This organization is working with youth development, but something I have been observing in terms of fighting against poverty among the youth, against unemployment in the youth communities. So there is a very huge problem. So I think in coming of this such a project will be assistance to the different groups in the community, including youth, including women, including we have so many single mothers. who have pregnant during their school times, and they come back at home without completing their studies. So they want to be empowered. Empowerment is needed for everything. So according to the program and objectives of our project, I think we will be able to organize different groups with different needs to empower them in different aspects of entrepreneurship, so as to make sure that they can establish their sustainable projects for their lives. So I think we can work if we will have specific objectives, and we will have strategies to tackle those problems which face our communities. I think we will reach at our expectations at high extent. Thank you so much, madam. Over to you.
Augustine, I thought here, because you mentioned employment, unemployment, and the desire to do something about employment. One of the things I mentioned here, that I had a meeting with a number of groups that represent a lot of the different countries from sub-Saharan Africa, especially at the UN in New York. And one of the things that we were talking about, because the idea has been, we need to promote jobs. We need to promote employment as a way to combat poverty. And the thing that came out of that was that development takes a while. It takes decades usually to really to make a difference on a national scale, not for individuals, or individual communities, but on a national scale. And that within a period of well, already starting now, that we're starting to see that there will be no jobs. And I'm talking Africa. I'm talking about, if you look at southwestern Ethiopia. Southwestern Ethiopia has one of the biggest farms in the world that was financed by Saudi Arabian interests, and they produce huge amounts of food, but it all gets exported to South Asia. And what they did is they basically pushed all the local inhabitants off their land, so that they could create this huge, almost automated farm. There's almost no human workers there. And this is where the world is going. So one of the things the SIFA plan was talking about was the idea of a universal basic income called supplementary income for all. That especially is going to be valuable in a time when human labor has no value. In other words, we cannot train humans to do work, because no human is going to be able to match a robot, or and I am talking humanoid robots now, which are speeding up tremendously and starting to go to work in factories literally around the world.
May I just interrupt here with a question? I've got a sense that when you were just describing, you were describing about a Saudi Arabian financed, highly developed farm that was pushing people who are the native people from that country away. But we're talking now, I think, with Katabazi Edward and with Augustine, we're talking about the people that actually live there.
That's
And these
correct.
are
But those people here
people that are
right now, if we go, we have a project in
people are going
Pakistan
to
talking about taking the farmers that live there and going and making it so that they no longer have to work, that the individual subsistence farmer is going to have a robot. Either they're going to have a robot doing their work, or the farm next to them is going to do it. And there are going to be no jobs that get paid for work anywhere in the developed world. We're only going to have the underdevelopment, left behind people that we either have to figure out how do we include them, or we're just going to basically say, you guys are animals now. We don't treat you as humans anymore. That's going to be what's going to happen, and we don't want that to happen.
Thank you. That's really important. There's another aspect, and the other aspect is that people like me who now have a subsistence income because of my age, I still work 24 hours a day.
Yeah, me too.
I know you do too. And I know that we're no exception.
But we
People
don't do it for pay. Nobody's going to
are,
pay us to do it.
no, but people like you are no different from you and me who have their interests. And whatever those interests are, whether they get paid for them or not. And it might be farming interest. It
Mhm.
might be creating
Victory
crops.
Farms. Sure.
It might be anything.
Yes.
And so that type of activity is going to be going on. And that is what we're going to be stimulating.
No, that's great. That's great. But it's not gonna pay. It's not gonna be the means of eliminating poverty because you're not gonna get paid for the work. And so we have to stop trying to convince ourselves that we can train people to get jobs that are gonna pay them so that they can afford to eat and have a place to live. So we have to come up with another way to be able to provide people with incomes that's not related to their getting paid for work. Augustine, you have
Bill, but then I'm just thinking about Katabazi. So he says, okay, we have an industry here, and we want to make that a go of that.
yes.
And so, but what
So
is
what
the
if I was to go in there and show them how we
where is that robot going to come from? That's going to take over from the community.
right. That's a perfect example here of where you're going to see somebody's going to come in and show them how with a robot that costs almost nothing is going to be able to do all the work that those people are currently doing. And
Oh, right.
therefore they'll be able to be productive as a corporate entity or as a business. They're going to be able to be successful. They're just not going to be able to have pay for work.
Where is this kind person coming from?
If you've looked at the things right now, the estimates are within 15 years, before the average middle school student is going to be in the workforce, there will be more human or humanoid robots walking on the planet than there will be people.
Yes, but we're talking now about the interim. So,
Yeah.
Katabazi, your community, needs all sorts of things. Bill, you're saying, okay,
I'm 100% right. What I'm speaking of is not dealing with the needs of the people for the next 2 years or so. I'm talking about here that we can't afford to go down a dead end path that it will be a catastrophe for everybody if we don't prepare for it. We've got to prepare and start the talking now and the planning now. We have to do two things. We have to serve the immediate needs, but we also have to make sure that we are not going down a dead end and the ship is going to sink in 3 years because we didn't take the proper preparations. That's my concern.
okay.
But
So
Augustine has had his hand up.
I think now we have a much better rounded idea, of where we're going, that we're talking about groups that work as communities.
Mhm.
When you ask the question, the answer is the community. And so we've had that very clearly as well, whereas in Tanzania, we didn't have the immediate community responding, but many individual needs of mothers, etc., etc. So we do have those different types of groups that we know are now part of the project. What are the next steps, Bill, that you see that we must now take to really get this off?
Let's hear first from Augustine. He's had his hand up for a while.
Oh, I'm so sorry, Augustine.
Yes, Augustine, please.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you, madam. Thank you, Mr. Bill. I have understood what you are explaining, but what I am trying to explain is the problem based on poverty among our communities, among the different community groups, is actually based on different things. Like, for example, it's based on something which is root causes of unemployment. For example, among the youth, in our different colleges, we are teaching education based on employment. When they come from their they complete their studies in the different colleges, different universities, They come back at home, but they have nothing to do because they cannot find their employment based on their studies. That is the first problem. So our government has tried to tackle this problem by establishment of entrepreneurship education in different colleges, but providing entrepreneurship education only, it cannot assist those youth to be employed, also to assist them in self-employment because of lack of funding. So sometimes they suggest myself. I finished my studies in regional development planning in 2022. But my teacher, my lecturer in the subject of entrepreneurship teaches me that one of the source of funds, I can get source of funds to my relatives, to my brothers, to my parents, such and such things. But can you imagine when you have started from primary school to the university level, those people, they are one who assisted you in your studies. But at the last time when you finished your studies, you are coming back to ask them, assisting me some funding to establish my what? To establish my project. That is the problem.
Mm-hmm.
So that is one. So my opinion, SIFA plan can find out how we can make advocacy, policy advocacy, to influence policy advocacy on how things can be changed in African countries. You know, African countries, you have the same challenges, and those same challenges can be tackling through the same measures. You understand it? So, for me, I think to tackle the problem, to solve the problem based on, for example, in entrepreneurship challenges for youth and for other people, we need to find out how we can establish small business in the community by using different groups, how to establish small industries based on our raw materials. For example, we can establish agriculture activities. For example, fruits which can produce juice and such things. So this can create employment opportunities for many people, and also they can increase income, and the others will be employed for one way or another. You understand it? So I'm not talking only about business. No, we can involve also in different projects based depending on the environment of our people wherever they are. I think this can assist and it can improve our project, our SIFA project, to be expanded to at that time we will have a huge impact, which will assist and it can be something which will assist so many groups in our communities. Thank you.
Yeah, Augustine, I think you hit upon a couple of really important points. One is you talked about education on its own being a solution. And we see across all developing countries, there's been a significant, because there's a push on education, we've seen a significant increase in the number of young people that are able to go to university and complete university. But as a result, some of the highest unemployment in the world among university graduates is developing countries, because what we did is we increased the amount of people who have very valuable skills, but we did not increase the overall ability of the population of that country to pay for those skills. So that results in a lot of those people who got the skills saying, oh, this market can't afford my skills. I need to relocate to a market that can afford my skills. And this is why we see so many people leaving that get an education, leaving their countries that they grew up in to go someplace else to get the jobs. And I have two very good cases. I've had some young people that I've been in close contact with now for almost 7 years who both have master's degrees in engineering, which you would think that would give them a great advantage. The one of them is working as an English teacher in Vietnam. Neither of them could find jobs in their own countries in mechanical engineering because there's just not the jobs there. And we even see that applying to doctors or surgeons. We have to look. I think it was the ambassador from the African Union to the United States who said there were more doctors from Ghana in New York City than there was in all of Ghana, and more doctors from Nigeria in Los Angeles than in all of Nigeria.
Yeah,
Now,
but just now we were also talking about the entrepreneurship
no,
and the beauty
exactly, and
of
so
the
the problem with
entrepreneurship
the
is empowering people to actually create jobs which are needed in the immediate environment. And that's where also Amos comes in. So
Yes,
Amos,
but
the
keep in mind, Amos is teaching people jobs that are going to be really great for 2, 3, 4 years before that market goes away. What he's teaching is right now there are projects underway to obsolete what he's teaching right now, but it'll be several years before that hits. But that's why we've got to go and say, okay, we need to do something to help people today. But we have to say here, if I was to go into a typical village area and I was to plump down a modern farm that uses and produces what another person produces in a day and can sell in a day because they're using manual techniques or whatnot, and I can produce that in an hour, I'm going to flood the market. The prices are going to disappear for everybody else, and I'm going to make everybody else impoverished because I went and I increased my productivity. An increase of productivity of some people results in a loss of opportunity for many other people. And
it can do that. It can do that, of
yeah,
course.
yeah.
What about Katabasi?
Yes, Katabasi, please.
Thank you very much. I might cite some example here in Uganda. I come from a background of people who are known as farmers, coming from the Wachiga clan. We are really proud farmers. So the advancement in technology is really going to help some of us who are learned. Like me, I'm a university graduate. I did industrial finance, but I'm majoring into graphics as well as a farmer and a film producer. So I'm looking at whereby we are coffee farmers, but the coffee we are growing, it needs to have more value. For example, the coffee we use here in Uganda, we sell only coffee beans. We don't sell the powdered coffee. So I'm looking at this SIFA pilot project that once we get someone with nice machineries that can add value on our coffee, on our roasted coffee, it can get more, it can earn us more money compared exporting low coffee or coffee beans. And likewise, we also grow passion fruits from the hills of Tigezi, whereby we normally sell low passion fruits. So given a chance of having a machinery, these passion fruit can have more value on it. Recently, we started making banana wine and the sanitary pads from banana fibers, but because of lacking proper machineries to save the mothers who normally have problem going in the periods. So we are not able to make proper sanitary pads for the children who are dropping out because of lacking sanitary pads. So I'm very sure that once this project is into progress, starts functioning, we shall be able to have machinery that can produce nice sanitary pads for our young mothers and the other stationery material like books. Because recently we've been making research on banana. Banana plantation can have over 35 factories of different products. I was really saying we have a lot of banana lying idols here in Uganda. What if we come up with a nice machinery that can make sanitary pads, that can make books, that can make covers, mats, different items, so that we after sales we can earn from it, or we can even export the profits out of it. Really, I'm really happy for this project that once it is in progress, we shall have standard products we are putting to global market. We shall have, for example, who are doing practical work like being a filmmaker. Sometimes we want to document certain work, like how is coffee being grown, how after growing plantations of forest, especially the eucalyptus trees, and other tree species, how can we extract oils out of this plantation we have grown to save the climate? We are looking at the climate. How can we also earn some money out of this environmental covering out of it? Then I realized that for you to extract these oils from eucalyptus trees, for example, and other species, you need equipment which is not available in Uganda and which is more expensive to acquire by a local person like me. So once this project is in progress, we can have a way of acquiring proper machinery, and our people, like my friend from Tanzania was saying, there will be more jobs because you cannot, however much technology is advancing, reaching into village, it will take decades to get closer to the local people. So, but machinery can do work instead of the robots coming in. I think she shall have more use getting employed and also getting money to go and start some small businesses. Like recently in my community, we're encouraging each family to have food forest. Instead of having productive trees in your compound, start planting food, have plants that can bear fruit like the avocados, the guavas, the wild berries, so that you can have food for your family for sustainability. You can have even some for sale. You can have different products out of this food forest you are growing, the purpose and the avocado and the guava. You can have different products and you add value on it. You have for your family, you also have for others for sale. So I'm really looking at this opportunity for the people who are, especially on the developing continent. They can embrace this project and they develop from poverty in their community, so that they can have sustainable goods and they live friendly with the communities and the environment where they live. And at the same time, they also earn from what they are preserving in the communities on global markets, and have some money to take care of their families and other projects. Thank you very much.
Atabazi, that's really interesting. So as you tell me that, and I listen to you, Bill, I see that there are, as you say, Bill, two issues going on. There is the immediate issue which needs to be taken care of, which can grow out into a personally meaningful a creative activity that can continue. And then also there is the preparing for the future, which, as you say, is not going to happen immediately. It's going to at least take two years before the first signs
It's
come out.
figure
So we need
5 to
to work
10
on.
years.
So when we get to our SIFA plan, which is really what this meeting is about,
Mhm.
we need to relate it to that we have these two things. And while the communities might be ordering one thing from the SIFA plan, the individuals will also be getting their education and getting their other needs met, which are going to help them as they transition into the new reality.
Yeah.
So
I
we
think,
see two different types of needs in the SIFA plan. Can we get to the SIFA plan now?
yeah,
Can
well,
we get
let me just respond to Karavasi, because he mentioned the idea, the machinery, if you can get the machinery. And this is all part of a single continuum, because he's saying, hey, if we had the machinery right now, that helps our existing situation and people will have jobs. And then that's great for helping right now. And then the machinery is going to get more and more sophisticated as time passes by. And there will be fewer and fewer humans needed because the machines are going to be better and better, doing more and more. That's the way the transition is going to take place. It's not going to just go overnight that, okay, we're just going to plump a fully automated factory down. We are going to see that in the United States. A lot of the things that they're trying to bring back into the United States, that was shipped overseas, the production that's going to come back. Those are going to go into fully automated factories. But as far as in a place like Tanzania, Uganda, and so forth, there's going to be opportunities right now to be able to go and do entrepreneurship in many ways. But with the idea that, hey, we get something that's better than what we got. If we get a little bit of machinery, now we can do a little bit more than we've been able to do thus far. We're better off. And then if we get a little bit of opportunity, time goes by, maybe we can upgrade that machinery and we can do even more. And as we do more, what we're really doing is increasing our productivity. So that village or that community's productivity, they're increasing their productivity, and they get more leisure. I was just taking a look here because I see Yves is joining us from Burundi. And in Burundi, I saw it's something like 64% of all human labor goes into just feeding the population. That's one of the highest in the world. And that means they don't have any time for so many other things in life, for infrastructure, education, medical care, all these things, because they're having to spend so much of their time just surviving and feeding themselves. This is going to, as we get the machines and whatnot, and we increase the productivity, the amount of time needed for food is going to go down. Germany is less than 2% right now. 2% of the entire labor of the country goes to feed the country. And as that goes down and we get more productive and more efficient, and being able to provide those basic needs, what it's doing is it's freeing up the human time. But the human time is going to get freed up in all fields. So you're going to start to see a leisure industry, perhaps in Africa, where people are going to have time to go and go to the seashore or go take a vacation and do so many of the things that right now people can't do. And that's okay. That's the transition. But to do that transition, we have to make sure that the benefits of those machines benefit all the people in that community. We can't afford to have it that somebody happened to have a little bit of capital and then they bought the machines and they said, hey, the benefits of the machine is mine. And that's
So
what we have to avoid.
when I'm listening to all the input we had today,
Mhm.
when the question came up, it was the community and the community and the community. And what we have in many of the countries in Europe and the States, it's sort of the individual.
Yeah,
And
but
the
that's going to
individual
happen in
decides
Africa.
they
That's
get
going to
to
happen in
it.
Africa and Asia as well, because we
It's
see that in the
very
parts that
obviously
developed.
not. It may or may not.
Well,
But this
we've
is
seen that here. If you look at sociologists, they will say it's a natural progression that as people have more access to mobility, cars and so forth, and more access to communication, then their horizons get broadened. And as the horizons get broadened, the community, the local physical community, becomes less and less important. That is a natural evolution of mankind that we've seen everywhere. And I don't.
well, and then you get the global community. And all of us here
Yeah.
belong to a community, and that is a global community.
Absolutely. That's the main thing.
Stay back again. Perhaps Stephanie wants to say something, or somebody else. I noticed that Lloyd's dropped off.
No, he's not. He's there. CTP program.
Okay, I know he's there. I can see, but he's not there in person. Perhaps Stephanie wants to
I'm
say.
here,
Oh, you are. That's good.
just listening.
Stephanie wants to say something, but let's keep it to the SIFA plan. So what we're talking about is we're talking about the local communities which would form a part of the pilot. Stephanie, how would that work out in your area?
Well, you know, with Maui Aloha Project, our Eco Village initiative, we don't have, you know, it's an initiative. We don't have an eco village right now, but there are thousands of eco villages around the world. Visited many of them, and I think they would be open to this initiative, the SIFA plan, to partake in different ways, and we can think through, you know, like I know we're looking for individual communities that have needs and whatnot, but these individual eco villages also have needs regarding all the things we talk about: food, renewable energies, social well-being, you know, community outreach, that kind of thing. So I think that having them already established as a community, I think they would be welcoming to it, because their mission statements, the reason they came together as intentional community is to, it was for many reasons, but financial challenges in, you know, in different places, whether it be urban or rural, and also to be able to share the process of living. And so if it's going to come down to food security being being one of the number one things in the world, which is probably why so many of the wars are happening and whatnot, for fear of not having enough, we must be approaching communities and not just individuals, I think, to en masse be looking at these kinds of projects, because we're going to need to replicate that the world over, between wars, between climate crisis and whatnot. So, you know, I think that we already have like the communities to approach. I also know that through UnityNet International with Lloyd, that there are tons of individual communities on all continents, rural and urban, who also know exactly what they want. They have like a list of needs, you know, there's lots of opportunity, but the communities are already an infrastructure trying to live in different ways, you know, dividing up the labor, you know, already, you know, the chores, you know, you like to plant and I like to cook and you'll do the dishes, kind of thing. And it's an efficient model. So you know, I think they're all looking to do better. 90% of intentional communities, eco villages, unfortunately fail, probably because of, you know, financial and business model. But most of their intentions are about housing and food security and that kind of thing. And, you know, I think, you know, we could already look towards that and say, what do you need? And how, you know, how can we try to
Really
provide that?
Stephanie, you're really broadening out the project. Yeah. And I'm thinking also, I've got this big Tirre. Kun je even je telefoon ergens anders nemen? Ik krijg een dubbele echo hier. Sorry. Sorry, this is double echo happening here. I'm just thinking, one of our big buddies is Rob Wheeler, who represents the Global Eco Village, and I just have not had time to get together with him. Stephanie, what about your outreach to these intentional communities? Would you have a means to do outreach?
I don't have one-on-one relationships with Global Eco Village Network. I did. I don't currently. I mean, together we could reach out to them, and um, say what we're trying to do, and basically what we're trying to do, as you said before, we're trying to unify the globe and to, replicate the learnings and the teachings, and also to be able to provide the needs to the people, to the communities. And I think that rather than being their own islands, they would want to be part of a unified effort to try to, be blueprints for what we need to do en masse. So, I would be happy to have those conversations as, with, yourself or whoever, if you know these people currently who are, to approach them, and also the Foundation for Intentional Communities, which is based outside in the States, to say, how can we put this together?
One of my concerns of what I'm hearing, I'm getting an echo somewhere. Okay. One of my concerns is right from the beginning, one of the key things Koister pointed out is we have to have a global solution, especially as we get into a universal basic income. If it's not global, it's going to fail. So we have to keep foremost in our mind, if we cannot achieve a global solution that serves everybody, the whole effort was a waste of time. And so even if we can't do that on day one, we have to say that is in the background. Now that means here we cannot go and say, well, we insist everybody has to be part of an intentional community or a community at all. I mentioned here I've been doing a lot of studies on demographics and things here. And just for example, in New Jersey, we have two counties. They're roughly the same size. One is very rural on the Pennsylvania-New York border that has 1/6 of the population of another county that's closer to the city that has 6 times the population. But they have the same number of people engaged in community service organizations and so forth. And when we looked, we saw the biggest difference. One of the biggest difference was in the rural community, the more rural community, most of the people living there went to school in the community where they're living. And most of the people that are living in the densely populated county did not go to school. They migrated around and they're moving around. And to them, that's just a place they sleep. They don't know who the neighbors are. They don't care to know who the neighbors are because they're associated with the people who share whatever their interests are. If they want to play soccer, they're in the soccer, the tennis group, or whatever group it is that they care about. And we can't go and base if our pilot is intended to prove this is a viable solution, is as important that it shows it's a viable solution for everybody out there. And so we can't go and say, well, we did our test on the people that match the profile of the people that we think that this will serve the best. We've got to come up with a solution for all. And I think what we've defined, with the exception of the sociocratic decision making, the solution that we solved does work because you can go in as a community and say we need to make a borehole or get fresh water or do sanitation if that's what's needed, or benefits, or get the machinery to be able to let your community have a cooperative or something. But you can also go in there and say, hey, I need specifically for my kids, they need school uniforms so they can go to school, or we need shoes, or we need books. So it serves everybody.
I think you're exactly right. And I think it's really important that what we're talking about is initiating on a micro level and with our goal to be able to replicate it on a macro level. And whether you're dealing with a community in a rural area, or whether you're dealing with a co-housing building in Los Angeles, they have needs, and we need to be, or not even co-housing. Not everybody needs to live in a community. I think you're exactly right. But to be able, if we can locate projects with the communities, if it's easier that way somehow, I mean, that is, as you said, a town had this many services and a city had, the same, so whether we, replicate that for the individual or replicate that, we're looking to replicate these kind of formulas globally to see that we can institute this kind of a process.
But it's top down. It's because a universal basic income, a global one has to be top down from the world. So that has to be the ultimate goal. It's how we get there.
Yeah, and also, as I listen, that we would have different types of communities. For instance, I feel a community now with those of us here, and we are sort of a community that is on different continents, but our interest is in coordinating the SIFA plan. But so there would be different types of communities. Some of them would be very definitely local, but others would be sort of might be national or different ones. We can, because of the internet, we can have any types of community, really.
But the supplementary income in the end has to be global. Otherwise, we're going to see Africa is going to end up with nothing, and you're going to have whoever was born with oil under their feet. They're going to live the life of kings, and whoever was born on a rocky outcrop of a mountain is just going to be out of luck.
Yeah.
The person that was speaking just before was
in the middle of a call, though. Zoom call going on.
Lloyd, you have to mute. The person who was speaking before about I think it was their family and
for sure.
Community members.
Team Zoom at 12 o'clock and this other call.
Lloyd, you have to mute.
I just muted. I just muted him.
The person who was speaking before about going into the forest and the value in the forests, I mean, I think about this more and more, Joan Kerr and I both being in Toronto, Lloyd being in Toronto too. We've really talked about amplifying the Victory Food Garden, which is crucial. We hear right now we have an election coming up in Canada, and they're talking about the lack of housing, what the tariffs are going to do to plummet, the recession. And the most important thing we need to be doing right now, we don't have the robots and whatnot. We need to be learning en masse food for survival in the cities, wherever we are and around the world. And we know this for decades and centuries in different continents. Somehow, this has got to be a priority, and I think that this would fly globally. We're talking about wanting to have, so if we could even somehow think about that in the face of the SIFA plan, and the SIFA plan is about uplifting humanity. I mean, first and foremost for, safety, housing and food, and resources for survival. Never mind thriving right now, but for survival. I think these are all angles to make everything more effective. They're not hard sells to any government. These are the priorities. So somehow we're each doing a piece of the puzzle here, each of us, and we put this puzzle together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stephanie, you've brought up here. For a second because I think it was your you're getting the feedback through your speaker and mic. But you mentioned here about the food production, and I'm glad you mentioned that because for the short term, you're 100% right. By the way, we're hoping we can start a campaign to encourage Americans who have solidarity to take their vacations in Canada. So that because the Canadians are saying let's boycott the vacations in America, but we can actually contribute by going and taking our vacations in Canada. I'm going to be there this summer.
Thanks, Bill.
So so anyway, but to the food.
We're just
Okay,
scared of
I'll make
crossing the
brunch.
border now.
Anyway, but to the food. Okay, so
I'll make brunch when you come.
okay, so but so the key thing though is that we have to recognize that there is no shortage of food in the world. There's only shortage of people's ability to pay for food. And if everybody had unlimited money, there would be enough people who would provide all the food that everybody wanted at any point in time. So it's only a shortage of people with the money to buy the food. But in the short term, because of these kinds of disruption, the problem is a lot of people are going to be missing money over the next few years because of what our president is doing. And so, yes, a victory garden could be a good solution. But keep in mind, this is a perfect example of what I was talking about. When we look here at the impact of robots and AI, one of the major ones is food production. They talk about that we'll be entering into this era of abundance where every single thing that a human needs or wants is just do that and some robot will put it in front of you. That's the era we're going to, but that'll only happen if we all somehow agree to share in the benefits of all that AI and automation. If we end up with a small percentage of the population saying those robots and AI belong to me and only the benefits go to me, then we're in deep trouble. And that's why we got to act now, because you can't come to solutions of the world working together overnight. But if we get to that point where we say, hey, yeah, all those robots out there, all those AI out there, that belongs to us all collectively, and it will serve humanity, we will all live tremendous lives. And it's not that we're just going to lay on the beach and vegetate, but it frees us up to all the different things that we have an interest in. We can become philosophers, we can become thinkers, we can become painters, we can do anything we want because we're no longer dependent on getting paid to do it. And therefore it'll free us to be the best humans that we can be. Anyway, that's the philosophy. Thank you. Lasinka, you're muted. I had to mute everybody because we had the feedback.
Thanks. I haven't heard from Eve yet, and then perhaps we can move on. I know that you and Joan had a next step you wanted to
Yeah,
take.
I know.
But
I know.
it's
That's it.
so enriching to hear,
Yeah.
all the input from this
Yeah.
amazing group we have here. Could
And
Eve
Lloyd,
say
we want to hear from Lloyd too.
yes, and then that we then move on to the next step. I'm looking at the time, it's
I
quarter to
I think
9.
what we're going to have to do, Lasinka, on this is let's hear from Eves and Eve and Lloyd, and then we probably just need to end this meeting because we've got to get Joan and Yvonne at the meeting. We have to make sure that they're committed to our next meeting because they're the ones that are putting a lot of the concrete steps forward, and we need that input. You're muted again. Okay. Yes, Eve, you want to please your thoughts. He was having connectivity problems, so he may not be able to communicate with Lloyd. What are your thoughts?
Well, I've been mostly listening here, so I'm trying to gather as best I can some of the insights that you bring, Bill, and that Lasinka brings, and even Stephanie, but especially as well the others in Africa. So what we are doing up here in Canada right now, so we're building an ecosystem of people to um, implement our programs here through this UnityNet FAU BIPOCA Alliance. The Canada team, which is working now. So I actually did quite a bit of work with AI recently. Specifically, I've been working with Grok quite a bit, along with working on the Notebook LM discussions. But I had some really great discussions with Grok recently. And with regard to this implementation pathway, sort of I think the concept here is we are now in a transition period from what was known as the Fourth Industrial Revolution toward what is now known as this Fifth Industrial Revolution, where humans begin working in synergy with the AI. And the interesting conversation I had with Grok just a couple days ago was with regard to how it is we can actually begin synergizing the way we do work together with the AI to ensure that literally nobody gets left behind. And so we're now beginning this conversation within UnityNet, within our relationship with especially the Friends of the African Union, but also in relationship to what we're now calling this so-called CycleWorks team. So what we would like to do right now, and we're in the process of having these conversations, these sort of initial conversations, we need some seed money to get projects off the ground to begin a campaign across Canada initially. And this has always been the target, to begin educating or enlightening people across the country about the potentials, the possibilities for us to work with AI and the artificial intelligence, the robots, the machines that are going to automate all of this stuff, especially all of the things we need at the, like you said, the base of the pyramid, the food, the water, the shelter, all the things we need to thrive, to get to that next level of development. But as we do our campaign in Canada, we twin these community-based projects. So we work especially with the schools, we work with the interfaith councils, we work with the NGOs and the CBOs, the service organizations like Rotary, like the YMCA, like the Lions Club, all of these organizations that are already here. They may not be in Africa necessarily, but we could assist them in establishing, if they do not exist yet. But then working in these partnerships where what we're trying to do is especially working with the cultural communities to gather the stories that can then be fed and used to train the AI in ethical development, understanding and understanding how we can prioritize the efficiency of the economies at the same time as we prioritize the ethical decision making around how we actually deliver to communities that are most in need. So the AI is making those decisions ultimately about where to send, where to produce, where to, like how to manage these, what we've been calling bioregional or regional economies. And so the framework we're using actually for that, and the understanding we're trying to basically train AI in understanding biological systems like fungal networks and how they are so much more efficient than our very rigid supply chains, and how they can become potentially a future economy that is much more dynamic, much more flexible, and much more, but you can only do it with the AI being in charge of how to distribute, how to produce, how to ensure that nobody is being left behind, because it can gather that information in real time. So our main point is to get the pilot projects is to begin building out the digital infrastructure, the high-speed internet, the systems that will allow even those remote communities to connect into into the digital realm to allow them to have access and understand how to use these AI-based tools that can be plugged into their production systems that can then be managed in large part or guided at least by the AI systems that are already, if they're in every one of their communities at all of their factories and all of their schools, if there's a central sort of hive or hub of AI that is sort of watching all of what's going on in terms of the production systems that are being put into place. So these, let's say, was talked about earlier, where okay, they have in this community in Uganda, there's this forest of bananas or passion fruit or whatever, but they've got a whole bunch of waste because they're producing juice, and they've got all these fibers, but they want to produce sanitary pads and books and paper and all of this other value-added stuff. They also need to somehow find a market for that and optimize the supply chains for that. And maybe there's actually some waste they can bring back from another industry in their region. So we can utilize the AI in ways that can optimize those bioregional supply chains and the waste management systems. And these are the types of conversations I was having with Grok and ultimately importing into Notebook LM so I could produce an actual business plan. So I actually got Grok to write me a business plan with budgets and personnel and everything. And like, so we have this plan coming together. We are going to do it here in Canada, and we're just now inviting people to join us and say, here's what we're doing here. We're going to optimize our own supply chain management system now that Trump has put the tariffs on, and everybody's looking for a way here to create new, let's say, cross-Canada trading systems and optimize our own economy here.
Invite
But
China
at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Join with China,
and
and put the high-speed rail east-west and all of the pipelines and everything. And Canada will be independent within months because there's nobody who can build that kind of infrastructure as fast as the Chinese.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I'm actually getting a little bit of a pushback from like the chairman of the Friends of the African Union, because of course, they're an American organization and they would love to make the American dollar dominant again, right? Or keep it in that dominant position. So their Black folks plan is all actually about like getting the trillions from the quantitative easing that Trump has actually control over, to pump that into all of these types of systems to keep the dollar dominant, right? The US
Lloyd,
dollar.
a couple of questions I've got here because you mentioned what you're doing with Grok. One of the things I had a very similar experience working with Gemini and also with ChatGPT, and it came to the same types of conclusions about the Industry 5.0 and the collaboration, the human focus. But what I found is when I drilled down and I said, I want to know what, show me industry by industry. What we very often make the mistake is when we look on the human side, we see the human on the top 10, 20% of humans in terms of productivity or the executives or whatever we're talking about, designers. But we have to remember that the bulk of our workforce are just worker bees. And when we especially think away from AI and look at where we're going, the progress that's been made with the humanoid robots and where we are likely to be, at the end of this year, the end of next year. And so the challenge is not going to be, is there opportunities for the best of the humans to be partners with AI and whatnot. The challenge is going to be what we do with the average human. When a single human, let's say a film editor, becomes like super productive and they can do the work of 10 film editors, what they're doing is they're putting 9 film editors out of work, or maybe they're putting 8 and we're going to double the output of films. But at some point you hit a capacity and there's more films than people can watch. We already get that with YouTube,
Yeah,
right?
it's already there, right?
So
You can't
the
watch everything
issue
on
here
TV.
is I suggest ask it here and look at specific things. I don't know if you saw the Bill Gates interview about a month ago, where he said, and he named doctors and teachers explicitly and said those are 2 professions that are going to be out. They're going to be gone in about a decade. And he said that almost all humans will not be necessary within 1 decade. And so we have to look if there's going to be there is an issue if you're in a remote subsistence village, let's say. You could go and sit there and plump down a store that is full, a supermarket right next to those people, and those people wouldn't be shopping in that store because they don't have any money, so they can't shop in those stores. So we're not going to, the idea that we can come in development will upgrade the agricultural capability, the productivity. If we upgrade the productivity, we're going to get France, where all the farmers are out dumping the milk in the streets because they're saying, I'm not making enough money because there's too much milk in the market. And we see governments paying the farmers not to grow food. And we see companies that are paying workers to destroy food in South Asia and India. You see these villages of poor people living around these big silos where food is being destroyed because to keep the prices high. And so this is important. And the final thing I want to mention is, because you mentioned here the marketability, to be able to go and have a business plan to be able to sell things. Again, don't think here for the next 2, 3, 5 years. Think 10 years out, because 10 years is going to come. And will there be any marketing of anything at that point? Or there will be marketing perhaps, but there's not going to be human workers that are going to have an income, that are going to be able to use that income to buy the thing. So we have to come up with an alternative source of income. And that should be our number one priority, is saying, how are we going to have people have income when they can't get income from work, from labor? And that was the key thing I took away from Koistra in his book. More important than personal development, more important than community, was the eradication of poverty. And the main means to that was the supplementary income. That's why we've even named the SIFA plan, Supplementary Income for All. We've got to think 10 years down the road, because otherwise we're going to hit the wall.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, that, I think we're now almost 2 hours into this meeting.
Well, just to touch on that point quickly, and I know you're trying to say something, Lysinka, but you are muted.
Oh, yeah.
How can we relate this now to what we're doing with the SIFA plan very quickly, and what the next step will be? And I think that next Monday would be a good time for the next meeting, because we've had a couple of people who had contributions to make and for whatever reason couldn't make it. Joan sometimes forgets the time because she's an artist and is working on an artwork. So, we need to make sure that at the next meeting, everybody can be there.
Well, what I wanted to respond to Bill, I think he's aware of some of it. The discussion that is happening right now in the U.S. through the Friends of the African Union, and they will be starting the 4th session of the UN Forum on People of African Descent this week, starts on Thursday. So they will be there in New York City at the UN headquarters. So they have put together a Black folks plan, this $75 trillion, 75-year plan for the world. And the basis of that is actually something that Trump has done for the US. And that basis is actually a return to a monetary system based on it basically underground, in-ground wealth. So essentially the gold standard, but it's actually a basket of commodities or resources. So each country and actually each city can create a sovereign wealth fund. Each region can have its own sovereign wealth fund. Each country, its own sovereign wealth fund. In the US, Trump actually created a sovereign wealth fund for the US. And this is the path they're also taking with the ultimate goal, I think, in a few years to return basically to the type of monetary system that's based on the gold standard, but it's a distributed one, just like there is actually a sovereign wealth fund in Alaska, and you've mentioned that before, Bill. And there's another one in California, and there's another
Norway,
one in Texas,
Mm-hmm.
right?
In
They're all over
Norway
the
as
place.
well, Norway.
Yeah, Norway. Like this is actually the model exists, right?
Mm-hmm.
For the sovereign wealth fund.
But what
So
that
now
does
the
is
idea is
it creates a big discrepancy, though, if you happen to be born in a country with oil under your feet, and or you're born on a rocky
well,
mountaintop with no soil.
and this is the idea of the BIPOCA Alliance as a global federation of
Okay.
all of these countries coming together to create these organizations that pool. Now we can pool all of the sovereign wealth funds together to ensure that nobody is being left behind. So
Yeah.
now it then becomes a global fund that can provide the finance that can then go to get into the grassroots communities that need it most, using the AI systems that now understand the supply chains, like I mentioned earlier, those new networks of being able to understand where the need is highest in real time, and where we can now assess the supply chains. And if we have an ethical framework behind how the AI is making its decisions on where to send resources, like if there's excess food in this community versus that community, we can channel the food to where it's needed most, or any other things using the AI systems. But now we have the basis for a global financial system based on a federation of sovereign wealth funds that are all pooling all of it together. So we now have a US sovereign wealth fund that's based on all of these state wealth funds. And we have a global wealth fund that's based on all of the country wealth funds. And
Great.
a
It's so
state
great.
wealth fund that's based on all the city wealth funds. So in
Other
Canada, for instance,
organizations.
there's a wealth fund for each province, but there's also a wealth fund for each city. There's a wealth fund that's by working together with the indigenous peoples who maybe have control of certain lands that they've been able to negotiate to control over certain lands. They have a wealth fund that they've developed because they know there's in-ground resources on that land way up in Labrador, let's say, or in Northwest Territories. They know there's diamonds and gold and platinum or
Well, that's the
whatever's
reason why
there.
Trump wants Greenland. It's not here for defense. He
Exactly.
wants it for the rare earths that are under the
Because
ice.
Trump created a sovereign wealth fund for the United States, right? He
Mhm.
knows this too. This is where we're headed.
Yeah.
We're headed away from this system now. I mean, it's going toward this system of coming back to it's not just gold, it's a basket of commodities, but it's it's also looking at what's under the ground in those communities
This is a very interesting
or
model, a very
in
interesting model.
those
What,
countries.
yeah, one of the things we have to watch out for is that we see here taking place now with this whole undoing of the federal government in the US is that we see a number of cities and states that are especially, let's say, controlled by the Republicans, saying they're kicking out all the poor people. They're saying to the poor people, you go to New York, you go to California, go to these people that are bleeding hearts, liberals, go there and let them pay for you. You're not going to get a penny from us.
Yeah.
So one of my concerns is when we start talking about localizing stuff is that you're going to get some local areas that say, you know what, 51% of us, we are believe in democracy, and 51% of us agreed we're going to make the other 49% to be our slaves because we're the majority. So therefore, majority rules. Because human rights, there's no commitment to human rights anywhere.
Yeah.
And this is the concern that if we don't come up with centralized solutions, we're going to be encouraging the worst of human behavior.
No, we're definitely in a huge transition period right now, trying to figure this out.
Yeah.
And so we do the best we can to try to figure out. That's why I actually do like the AI tools, because we can drill down even into the
You
little
can do
stuff.
all kinds of what ifs.
Yeah, and I am using it more and more, but the problem I've been having is my laptop's been overheating every day. I just use too many of these tools. But it's possible to begin, and I think using a framework like the SIFA plan, I'm involved in this because I'm trying to track all of the things out there that are related to the finance side to get the other stuff that we want to get going. So that's hopefully you got copied on an email recently, Bill, that I sent out. What we're trying to do, I want to do this locally here with the Rotary clubs, but I'd like to connect to our local Rotary club, get them on board with doing these pilot projects. And this is actually key to what Joan is doing with the IEEE and the smart villages. And that ties into what Stephanie's doing with the eco villages.
Go back to the SIFA plan and we're sort of getting off into very rich topics.
It isn't, because it is actually all about the SIFA plan.
What we're talking about is where are we now with the SIFA plan and what is the next step? We've really explored some really rich areas today, which each person has been involved in. And but we need to sort of get back to the topic so that we're making a movement in the pilot project, which actually is the topic of what we.
I think that we need Joan. We need Joan and Yvonne. I think what we need to do is for next week, we need to. I'm going to ask Joan to actually drive the invitation and the folks to. If she can't make next Monday, then they got to find a time. We need them in the meeting. So I think that's got to be the priority for us now to, I think we discussed a lot of interesting things. I think what we're seeing here is really, we've said from the beginning, the whole idea of a pilot is to demonstrate a concept is feasible. And the main concept, I think we're having a little bit of a debate. What is the main thought or concept behind the SIFA plan? And is it the idea of a global universal basic income for all that basically leaves no one behind and eliminates poverty and enables economic inclusion? And to what degree the social community aspect on that is mutually dependent, if you would, or that it could be done in stages, because I don't think there's any doubt that we can create the kind of marketplace we talked about. We can have whether it's the Supreme Court of sustainability make the decisions, or the AI is making the decisions, and then that might be one way to get started, and then we can get that, evolve that, grow that into more and more community engagement in it? Or do we need to say, no, it's the community that really is more the key of the plan, and the economics piece is just the sugar that
Well,
invites
it's
people?
all is interconnected. You
But it's
can't say,
not
I want
physically, only emotionally, because physically you do not need all those components to make it physically possible.
Well, you can implement a little bit, and then you've got a little bit which is being a little bit here and a little bit there and done there and there. But
Yeah.
what is not done is the whole shebang. And that's what this is about. And if you want to do a little pilot project, does the economics, there's 10,000 eco villages minimally just from one organization doing it. So,
But
let's
they're all homogeneous style. That's totally different than the counties that I was
They
describing.
have the exact same three premises or four premises as the SIFA plan have. So, what we're doing is nothing really new. But if we're going to do it, we either need to do the SIFA plan or we do something else. And if we do something else, we're not doing the SIFA plan. Let's make an agenda next time of this is what we're going to discuss and this is what we're going to achieve, so that we have movement in the pilot project.
Yeah.
I think what we've done today is gather some amazingly interesting
Yeah.
input.
And we're going to
Which
be sharing the video, but I think the main thing here is Joan, as she's got the lists here of the things she was putting together, that we need to have her driving the next meeting, and that's
So
what I'm going to
you'll be
push.
putting that together with Joan.
I'm
So the
going to
next meeting will be next Monday at the
I'm
same.
going to talk to her because there may be a reason why she's not here today. Because we picked the Monday in the morning. That was at her request initially. So I need to find out. We need to have a time when both she and Yvonne say they are available and that they will be available. That's important for the next
And
meeting.
can we then have a time where we really agree to be
Yeah.
on time?
Yeah.
So that we don't waste, I've wasted, a half an hour of time that I very badly needed for other things.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
this is
I'm
amazing.
seeing Augustine's hand is up.
Yes, Augustine, please.
Yeah, okay. Thank you so much, sir. And I have heard the oral discussion you have been discussing. Although unfortunately I have gone for a certain minutes because of power. It was you had the power problem. But I have observation that we started here with the 13 people in our group, but now we are 6 to 8. So my observation is that maybe we need to strengthen our group to know how many members we have in this SIFA group as we are starting. Then if we are going to decrease, we are decreased from one day to another. I think this is not a good sign. For me, I would like to suggest that we need to see how we can motivate our member group to. Mr. Bill, you have been trying to do it, because even me, you have been sending message in inbox and such a things. That is one of the motivations. Maybe we need to do more to make sure that our group we come back and to see how we can strengthen this group to stay where we are, in order to plan together and to work together at the last time, because I believe that we are at the starting point. So if we are starting like that, we need to be together, to shake hands and to make sure that we are still working together as a team.
Yeah, that's a key thing, and that's
Thank you,
something
sir.
here that Joan, Joan and I have talked a lot about, that we can't keep, when we have the meetings and we discuss and we say, okay, it's going to include this and it's not going to include that, and then we come back in the next meeting, we bring it all up again, as if we never had the
Yes.
previous discussions. That's what we've got to build, from meeting to meeting. We can't keep going back to the basics. And Lisinki, if you recall, because you had mentioned in the past, if we're not going to do the complete SIFA plan, then we can't call it the SIFA plan. And I think we agreed that, and Joan was very explicit on that, that it's not the SIFA plan. It's the pilot we're talking about is a part of the SIFA plan, but it's a
It's inspired
specification.
by the SIFA plan, but it is not that.
Yes, exactly. And so I think here what we've got to do is, in Lisinki, you're right. We need to put it down in writing on the invites to say, okay, here's where it is, and we need to have the document on the side that says this is so far what we've agreed. These are the discussion points that are still open that we're going to discuss, and that we don't keep bringing up the points that we've already agreed. Okay, that's not part of what we're going to try to do in the pilot, because we only have limited because we cannot implement a global solution for the whole world with the United Nations right off the bat as a get-go. So it's very important that we define this is doable, but what we had agreed is it has to prove the concept. If we don't prove the concept, what's the value? If we come back after doing something for a half a year or whatever, and we say, okay, it doesn't work. And it's not enough that 10,000 eco-villages, those eco-villages, they're too similar. There are people that think in a similar fashion. I'm much more concerned about all the people who don't think like them, because if we don't have them on board, then whatever we're doing is always going to remain a fringe effort. So we got to do something that can be inclusive of everybody. And so we've got to define these are the things that have to be accomplished by this pilot for the pilot to serve its purpose. And that then we can say, okay, now here are the features and here's the parts we're going to implement. These are the parts that we can't implement it now, and we're going to put in an explanation of why we can't do it now and how it can expand to include those points in the future.
Bill, that is what we had to start out with.
Yes.
That is what we have had, and now we're half a year into the project, and we're just beginning with what we really should have started out with, and which Joan actually emphasized. So,
well, but for this is the third meeting where we have not shifted the basic. We haven't said anything here that shifts the basic plan of what we said we would implement in the pilot. This is the third meeting in a row that we've not made any further progress in that, because we're talking about the theoretic basics still. And we had a step-by-step. There's actually, I think it's in one of the invites, it listed literally, I think 11 or 7 or I don't know how many specific steps of the platform. And that's what we can build on, but we can't be talking the generalities. We've got to get away from the generalities, because when you go out there to say to somebody, now you build that software, you build that house, you got to have plans, you got to have concrete blueprints of what it looks like and how it works. And we were a step on the way for that, but we somehow have not managed for the last 2 meetings to get beyond that. And I think we do. I do think there's some new pieces that have been brought in that are very, very valuable, such as what Lloyd mentioned here on the possibility of local sovereign funds being able to provide, for example, the universal basic income or the supplementary income on a local scale. And the platform that we presented 2 meetings ago included the provision that if some group or some local area had a sponsor that would provide for a supplementary or universal basic income, then they can use that. And if you don't have that, then we default to the model where we invite people, just like we invite providers to offer to satisfy a need. We invite charitable organizations like Rotary who are looking for opportunities. The people that I've talked to in Rotary say, wow, this would be so fantastic that all 45,000 locations here would be able to look through the lists and basically adopt some of the need provider combinations. So, but that is a fallback to where we can't come up with something within that particular pilot project that maybe provides for all or a partial universal basic income.
Right. So where are we now? You're going to contact Joan, and you and Joan and Yvonne are going to decide, possibly with outreach to everyone, when the next meeting is going to be and what's going to be on the program and what we're going to achieve there.
Right.
So that will be what our next project is.
Correct.
Good.
Correct.
And I want to say how grateful I am for the input from each one of us here. It's been so interesting to me to see what is already in place and to see the whole way of thinking approach, which is so valuable to the whole project. And it's different from what we've been talking about from when we've started about talking about from our heads, from the theories. And that the reality is vibrant and full of needs and full of things that can be offered. And I'm so very grateful for having been educated in that way today.
And I want to thank everybody who stuck with us today. I don't know what happened because I was very sure Joan would be with us today. She was on the call on Saturday that we had, and we talked very briefly about today. So I don't know what happened, and I apologize, but we will get back on schedule here. We will be moving. We have a shared folder now for the pilot that I sent you the link. It is in the invitation to the PowerPoint that Joan presented in the last meeting. She has a new document here that I hope to get today or tomorrow that we will add to that shared folder. And then I'll take here the information that was written out in the invite a couple of meetings ago, where and I think repeated for the last meeting, where it's spelled out, here are the functionalities of the platform that would enable this all to work. And I have a document, it's about 30, 40 pages, that literally breaks down each of those functions into the software functionality that would be needed to actually implement that step. And I do believe that.
Excuse me,
yeah.
I have to go.
Yeah. Okay. I think here we're 2 hours and 20 minutes into the meeting here, and we've really been very good thus far in keeping these to about 90 minutes. So I would say here, just keep watching the WhatsApp group, and we will get the information put into there. And Lloyd, I'd like to talk to you maybe a little later this afternoon on some of what's going on, especially this Friends of Africa group here meeting on Thursday. I don't know if I could, but maybe I might be able to make it into the UN. I've been spending less.
Yeah, it would be great if you could meet with Herschel.
Yeah, I've been in New York at the UN almost every day for the past week, I do think I have a doctor's or dentist appointment, an eye doctor.
Well, the other thing is that Joan is basically part of what we're doing as well, right?
Yeah.
So Joan has put together this concept of this ideas forum for this October that she wants to do in Toronto with the IEEE. So this is being driven by the IEEE that she's working with. So the Rotary IEEE Smart Village initiative. So this is the Rotary as well.
Okay, good.
So I don't know if you've talked with her about that.
Not
So
about that, no.
So I would suggest that you do, because this is tied into what we want to do this October in Toronto. So I connected Joan with a gentleman in Edmonton who's affiliated with the Aga Khan Development Network. So you know the Aga Khan, there's a new Aga Khan. The new Aga Khan is looking for projects to continue the legacy of his father. So we are now in discussions with a gentleman actually in Vancouver who is affiliated with that network, as well as this gentleman in Edmonton.
I don't know if any of you are going to make it to Calgary in June. I'll be in
I
Calgary
don't have plans at this point, but if there's funding to do that, then I can get there. But at this point, what we're doing is working with Joan to plan her event in October. And her event in October, I suggested what she do is actually talk to and request a location to do her forum in Toronto at the Aga Khan Museum, which of course is built by the Aga Khan Development Network and the Aga Khan. So I don't know if she's done that or not yet, but what the forum is all about is actually engaging with all of the indigenous peoples across North America and inviting them to that forum to have a discussion about future development. In particular, when we talk about that, we're talking about developing like in the far north, as an example. Like, how do we develop the infrastructure up in the far north in ways that are respecting their culture, respecting this process of reconciliation? And that's actually the same discussion we're essentially having with the Friends of the African Union, is about how do we respect the cultures and develop Africa in a way that is for communities like the remote communities up north to actually be involved in this whole process of developing the country and the whole supply chains of mineral extraction and development projects. That it's not just the big corporations coming in, developing these mines and then leaving behind wastes and devastated landscapes and devastated economies. How can we ensure that when we go into these communities, because we want those minerals, the resources, but we want to do it in a way that is respectful and works together with these communities. So that's the conversation that Joan wants to have at this forum in October with the IEEE, to empower especially the young people to think differently about entrepreneurship and about the future. Again, this idea of how can we work with AI? How can we develop these communities in ways that are respectful of the cultures, respectful of this process of reconciliation, to ensure that there is a better future for these communities.
One thing I would encourage you to do is with the AI, and I've spent quite a bit of time talking about this, looking at remote rural areas in different parts of the world. One of the things that we can't ignore is the fact that there are differences in the geographical advantages and disadvantages, geographical disparities. There are people that are born into temperate zones with the good soil and good water and all on transportation capabilities and all kinds of stuff. And there are people that are born into areas that are just not conducive to human life. But
like
because of tradition, we're artificially keeping them alive, those communities alive. And the discussion I've had here is getting into the whole ethical question of whether it's correct or meaningful or ethical to try to keep these communities alive.
Well, I don't think it's a matter of trying to keep them alive. It's providing them with and this is the basis of what we're doing, providing them with the knowledge, the hands-on practical knowledge and skills to be able to reimagine their own, wherever they are, in terms of what are the tools, technologies, solutions for providing self-sustainability.
Right.
And if that's not possible where they are,
yeah,
maybe yes, they do need to
exactly.
move to
And
the
that's
cities, like
what
they did in China, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what I
But
would.
it's their choice, not our
No,
imposing
you're
it on
you're
them.
correct. But the thing about it is to be facing the reality, because right now too much of the effort is to say, in the name of equity, we have to provide the same services and things like this to these remote areas, even though it might cost 2, 3 times more per person to do that. That has to then be subsidized by the people who are living in the better areas. And the question is whether that's fair to go and say, oh, because you live here, you have to subsidize the fact that somebody out there wants to live there. And it's not always the question of you're living in because you're poor and you're disadvantaged out there. It's sometimes people that say, you know what, I don't want to live in all the noise of the city. I have this beautiful lakeside cabin here. And I want to live there. And hey, you people in the city, I want you to build a nice road to my area. I want you to build good electricity. I want you to build internet. And you in the city, you have to pay just because I want to live in this beautiful scenery here. And so the ethical questions are not so easy all the
They're
time.
not straightforward, for sure.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, actually, with the sovereign wealth fund concept, things start to flip on their head. Because where is the wealth? It's up in the remote communities.
Yeah, right. Well, in some cases, yes. Not always, though.
Not always, no, of course. Like in the middle of the Sahara Desert, there's nothing. It's just sand.
Exactly.
Sand all the way down.
Right. So anyway, if you can send me anything you've got that I could use for a prompt to get more information on what's happening with these sovereign funds, I would be very interested.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw the executive order that Trump signed to create a sovereign wealth fund for the U.S. So that, I mean, that you can Google, right? And you'll see online on the U.S. federal website, you'll find that.
I'll take a look for that. Sounds good. Okay, guys. So, but we will try to get ourselves organized here for our next meeting. We will, whatever that meeting is, I'm going to do my best to make sure Joan is there.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I got to introduce you to Herschel.
Yes.
So if he's going to go on Thursday in New York, talk to him about what's going on in Cincinnati in Ohio. That's where he is. So that's going to be the pilot. That was the idea, was that Cincinnati first, because they're organizing this with all the banks already. And then we learn from that process, and then everybody else working with this World Council of Mayors to say, here's the model in Cincinnati.
Yeah.
We can now use that everywhere else in the world.
Yeah, I met one of the senior advisors to the Council of Mayors at the UN.
I'm going to say goodbye, guys.
Okay, I think
Thanks for a good meeting, and it's been wonderful.
Yeah.
And it did go on longer than we had promised.
We're at 12:30.
90 minutes. And we didn't start until.
I'm about to get hit over the head with a frying pan here, so.
All right.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you.
Okay, we will pick up on
Bye,
this.
Stephanie. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.